We have reached the end of the book. So, Fine Soul by Ralph Fletcher. We are on chapter 26, which is called Room 238, 8:15 a.m. So, without further ado, there we go. Mr. Fabiano stood, staring at his students. Rachel had never seen his face so somber. He hadn't spoke once since she and her classmates filed into the room and quietly took their seats. Now they had now they sat at their desk, looking at him, and he stared back. Rachel glanced around the classroom. She noticed that Sean was wearing what looked like a clean t-shirt. He looked over and flashed her a big smile. "Good morning," Mr. Peacock said over the loudspeaker. The class sat in silence while the principal made the announcements. Mr. Peacock made no mention of the parents, reporters, and TV cameras stationed in front of the school. Everyone stood for the Pledge of Allegiance. Rachel heard Mr. Fabiano's voice, "with liberty and justice for all." "Attendance," Mr. Fabiano said. "Karen, here. Rhonda, here. Christopher, present." He smirked. "Is something funny, Christopher?" Mr. Fabiano asked, looking up from his sheet. "Something we all should know about?" "No, sir," Christopher replied quickly. Pause. Mr. Fabiano glanced down at the attendance sheet. "Bastian?" "Oh, yes, he moved." He wrote something on the sheet. "Tim, here. Robert, Corey, we're here. Melinda, here. Jessica, here. Rachel." He glanced up and marked her as present. "I'm here," she said quietly. Everyone turned. Rachel blushed and lowered her eyes. She felt a little silly. Mr. Fabiano stood up. "You spoke!" "Yes," she said. She glanced over at Missy, who looked as if she'd seen a ghost. The expression of shock softened into a grin. "Hi, Rachel," Missy whispered. "Hi," Rachel said. "It is so good to hear your voice," Mr. Fabiano said, smiling. She looked up for a few seconds before realizing he was waiting for her to say something more. "I know," she said at last. "A time to keep silence and a time to speak," Mr. Fabiano said. "To everything there is a reason." He nodded. "That's from the Bible." "I know," she said again, and kids laughed as if now those were the only two words she could say. "It seems that we have lots to talk about," Mr. Fabiano said to the class. He spoke in a calm voice. "I wasn't here on Friday, but it has come to my attention that Friday was not your typical day. Something happened right here in this classroom. Something unusual, something serious, and I would like to know about it." He got up and walked slowly toward the back of the room. At Tommy Feather's empty desk, he stopped and sat down. Kids swiveled around to look at him. "I want you to write me a letter," he said. "What I want to know is, what happened? Nobody has a monopoly on the truth. Each of you will have your version." He pointed at a sign on one of the walls. "Character is how you act when nobody's watching." "You've read this sign 100 times, right? All right then, how did you act when no teacher was watching?" "Right. Don't just give me a bunch of fluff. Dig under the surface. Tell me something I don't know. Don't rush. See how much you can get down in 20 minutes. Then we'll get together and share." Okay, so let's see what they have to write about. Jasmine. "Dear Mr. Fabiano, at first it was sort of a prank. No more teachers, no more books. Yuck, yuck, yuck. But after a while, we started feeling kind of proud of what we were doing. Sort of like, we don't need any grown-ups. We can do it ourselves. What I can't get my parents to understand is how totally normal the day was. We worked, talked, voted on decisions. True, some kids were talking out more and making wisecracks, but most of the time we felt pretty close. And there were a couple of times I felt like we, the class, were a team, a real family. Your student, Jasmine." Jessica. "Dear Mr. Fad, I do not, repeat, do not want to write about Friday. I'm sorry, but I'm sick of talking about it. This is the last time I'll let anyone talk me into a stunt like that. Boy, did I get in trouble with my parents, especially my father. Here's a sample of my weekend. Dad, didn't you know it was wrong, Jessica? Me, yes. Dad, didn't you know it was dangerous for a bunch of kids to be unsupervised all day? Me, yes, sort of. Dad, sort of? Me, well, yes. Dad, then why did you do it? Mom, stop it. You're putting her on trial. Dad, I'm just trying to get at the truth. Mom, you're cross examining her. I never want to go through a weekend like that again. And to think I was the only kid who voted against the idea of us running the class in the first place. Super annoyed, Jessica. Christopher, dear Mr. Fab, Saturday morning the phone rang. It was a reporter from the National Enquirer. I think he was calling my mother because she's president of the PTA, but he seemed happy to talk to me. We heard that some strange things happened in your class on Friday. Satanic rituals, that sort of thing. Is that true? I told him, we got out the Ouija board and used it to try and contact the spirit of Tommy Feathers, a kid in our class who died in October. The man asked, really? I told him, no, I'm kidding. We did our work. I told him, no, I'm kidding. We did our work. Read, wrote. It was just like any other day. He seemed disappointed and hung up. Here's the saddest fact of all. Nothing happened. Don't worry about whether or not we were good. Believe me, we were too good. No rock music, no party, no nothing. For about 20 minutes, some of us played a computer game. Big deal. Pathetically, Christopher. Missy. Dear Mr. Fabiano, Friday was an important day. We proved that kids could have fun and still act a lot more responsible than most grown-ups, like my parents, ever thought we could. Did we do the right thing? Tough question. In the Revolutionary War, the colonists dumped tea into the Boston Harbor. Was that wrong? My mother thinks that's not a fair comparison, but I disagree. We saw the chance for more freedom. We took that chance, and we were willing to pay the price. Sincerely, Missy. P.S. Did you see the photograph of our class in a newspaper? That's the best picture of me I've ever taken. Karen. Dear Mr. Fab, you've been telling me all year that I'm a leader, but I don't think I realized it until Friday. It was me who went to the office and decided not to tell Mrs. Pierce that they forgot to send us a sub. It was me who gave the class the idea in the first place. I talked the other kids into it. I take full responsibility for what happened. I went to the office to tell them that we had no teacher, but when I got there, I realized that all they would do is send us some stranger to tell us what we were supposed to do. Who needed that? We knew what to do. I figured, hey, we can run the class ourselves. Jessica thought it was really dangerous for us to be without a teacher. My parents said the same thing. I thought and thought about it all weekend, and I still respectfully disagree. We handled every problem and came up until the rock ritual when Rachel and Bastian got into that awful argument. I'll admit it. That was very, very scary. That was the only time I wished you were with us. But then again, if you were with us, I seriously doubt we ever would have talked and written about Tommy Feathers. Sincerely, Karen Ballard. Bastian. Today is Friday. You won't read this till Monday. Today has been Bastian's terrible, horrible, no good day. We just did a rock ritual. This is my last day in class. Rachel accused me of picking on Tommy Feathers. She's right, but it was nothing against him. That's my style. I picked on lots of kids when I moved here, and I'll probably do the same thing in Hawaii. It's like what they say in the Air Force, the best defense is a good defense. Today I cried in school. I haven't done that since first grade. Kids probably think I got upset because of what Rachel said. Wrong. It was because of Barkley, my puppy. I can't take him to Hawaii. It's too cruel to quarantine him for so long. So after school, I'm going to give him to Sean O'Day. It's the best thing for Barkley, even though it's a bad thing for me. Your former student, Bastian Fallville. P.S. I'm going to ask Dad if I can get a new puppy when we get to Hawaii. P.P.S. It's okay if you let Rachel Wright read this letter. Sean. Dear Mr. Fabiano, when Mr. Peacock found out we were alone all day, he jammed us into his office and bawled us out for about 15 minutes. He said we might get suspended, but I didn't mind. I was in a double good mood. First, because I knew I was going to be walking home with Rachel, and second, because Bastian told me he was giving me his puppy. Me and Rachel walked home without saying anything. Her mom got us homemade cookies and milk and put them on a little coffee table in front of the TV, but I was too excited to eat. I ran almost the whole way over to Bastian's. I was half thinking that Bastian was kidding me, but he wasn't. He cried when he gave me Barkley, and I felt sorry for him. When Barkley came into the house, he ran over to the couch and jumped up on Dad and started licking his face like a lollipop. The puppy likes Dad and Darlene, but he's crazy about me. He follows me all over the place. Dad made a little bed for him in the corner of my bedroom, but today when I woke up, Barkley was sleeping curled up on my bed, and I got a feeling like Christmas morning. Yours truly, Sean. Rachel. Dear Mr. Fabiano, late last night, Mom ordered two small pizzas, one with black olives, one with pepperoni. Which one do you want? She asked, and it hit me. It probably sounds stupid, but when she asked that pizza question, a little light went on in my head. I had a choice. Last fall, I decided to stop talking, but I didn't have to keep quiet for the rest of my life. I could choose to speak when I was ready. Today felt like the right time. I can't wait to tell Mom and call my father. I believe we accomplished something important on Friday. Maybe Class 6238 won't get a place in the Guinness Book of World Records, but for almost 6 hours we were on our own. Jessica thought it was dangerous, and she was 100% right. Of course it was dangerous. The first time Amelia Earhart soloed, she nearly crashed, but she survived, and so did we. Deep down, I believe we did the right thing. You're going to hear all about me and Bastian fighting during the rock ritual. I don't completely understand what happened. All I know, it was the 6 month anniversary of Tommy's death, so all day I was thinking of him, and all of a sudden my feelings just bubbled over. I was unfair to Bastian, and I wrote him a note to apologize. Lots of times I wasn't very nice to Tommy. I wasn't very nice to Tommy either. I snubbed him on the night before he died. I can't change that. But over the weekend, I said to myself, I can live with what I did. I'm not a terrible person. And now I can say it out loud. Love, Rachel. And that is the end of Flying Solo.